I really don't know if Obi-Wan Kenobi is ever going to get a second season. At a time when Disney is moving away from reliance on the Disney Plus shows to return to the cinema, I don't know if we're ever going to see a second season. That being said, I'm really hoping Ewan McGregor gets the chance to portray Kenobi again. He's been very vocal and passionate about aging with the character, and wants the chance to play the pre-Alec Guinness version. Kenobi Season 1 took place a decade after Revenge of the Sith, but we're talking about the last 9 to 10 years where he's just on Tatooine. No more big adventures saving Leia. We're talking about him being trained by Qui-Gon's Force Ghost and the character development that comes with that. And there are some other excellent stories from the expanded universe during that time that could be adapted or rewritten, depending on what Disney and Lucasfilm want to do. But in a brand new interview with Variety.com, Ewan McGregor passionately states there is a lot of room for an Obi-Wan Season 2. He's suggesting the show might not be totally over after all. On the physical release for the first season, Lucasfilm stated that is the complete one-and-done season, but we know as far back as a year ago there were some conversations being had behind the scenes. And if you guys recall, insider Jeff Snyder did suggest there are some Star Wars series in the works that we don't know about yet. But here's a suggestion: why not make a continuation of Obi-Wan Kenobi for the big screen, and have the likes of John Jackson Miller, who wrote the Legends novel, consult on it? There are plenty of ways Disney can continue this story, but to the minds of many fans, Season 1 was enough. We don't need every single gap of the timeline filled in. In other words, the remaining 9 years until A New Hope can be left to the imagination. But Ewan McGregor disagrees, and said this: I loved more than anything getting to know Alec Guinness's work, because I was playing him as a young man. Even now with the series, that was my personal challenge. If a take feels a bit like him, I'm happy. And he goes on to reiterate the work is not done. I really do hope we get a chance to do another one, he says. Between where we ended off in the series and when Alec Guinness comes on screen with Luke, I think there's another few stories to tell in there. By the end of Season 1, Obi-Wan got his mojo back. He faced Darth Vader for the last time until they see each other again in Episode 4. He's going to move to his hut in the Junlan Wastes, and now he can communicate with his former master's Force Ghost. And this is where we see a lot of changes in Obi-Wan's personality. We know this from the expanded universe, as well as both EU and canon comics. Not to mention the famous Twin Sons episode of Star Wars Rebels, where Obi-Wan faces Maul one last time. And Obi-Wan is a different character to even Season 1 of the show. And one of the key things I'd love to see in a Season 2, if they ever make it, comes from Dark Lord, The Rise of Darth Vader. It will have to be changed a bit, because the first season did alter some of our understanding of these events, but following Obi-Wan's realization that, as Yoda told him in Revenge of the Sith, the boy you trained, gone he is, consumed by Darth Vader. The role of Qui-Gon as a Force Ghost wasn't just to train Obi-Wan how to become a Force Ghost when he eventually dies at the hands of Darth Vader, but also to come to terms with what has been, and what is to come. In the book, on top of his PTSD, Obi-Wan went through a lot of worry. He feared for the future of the galaxy, for Luke, for Leia, and the general outcome for the Rebel Alliance. On one occasion, Qui-Gon visits him, and almost prophetically reassures Obi-Wan that Luke would grow up to confront his father one day, when the time was right, and he reassures his former Padawan that everything is going to be alright, that Luke is the new hope, that his faith is well placed. It was enough to secure Obi-Wan's confidence in the future of the galaxy. But this interaction between Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan changed things for him. He began to have more faith in the Force. So if they do go down the route of Season 2, and they go for the more introspective version of Obi-Wan, it's going to be a very different kind of season. But they could also integrate some things from the Legends novel, like the character of Anakin, which was someone who became good friends with Obi-Wan, and even developed a crush on him. She was a shopkeeper who lived in Danar's Claim, in the Piker Oasis, and she's part of the focus in the novel of Obi-Wan's day-to-day life. I understand that might not be as invigorating for a live-action TV show. It doesn't have as much lightsaber action, doesn't have as much Force, but it's an essential part of Obi-Wan's experience leading up to A New Hope. How he comes to know certain important figures, how he learns about Mos Eisley, how he gets to know the Tusken Raiders. They could bring in Sharad Het, they might even adapt the way Christensen met Kenobi, but more than anything, they could use a second season as an excuse for a Darth Vader story. There are a crazy amount of things that happened in Vader's life before the original trilogy. Hunts for more Jedi survivors, power struggles with Palpatine, disputes, overcoming his pain. As Ewan says, there is so much potential. And of course, the Bad Batch Season 2 left the door wide open for Commander Cody to go and find his former Jedi General, his friend. Even in Revenge of the Sith, Cody had doubts if Obi-Wan really died on Utapau, if Order 66 was successful. But now that Cody's gone AWOL and has abandoned the Empire for good, the reunion writes itself. Make a Kenobi movie for the big screen. I'm sure fans would love it. Also, my dear friends, Hayden Christensen was asked about this possible Season 2, and he said this: "If it means that I got to do more with Ewan, then that's a no-brainer. But I really hope that he continues with the character. Just as a fan, it's so exciting to get to watch him play Obi-Wan. He's just so good at it." Now, the reason Hayden is wording it like this is because we know Hayden is going to come back for Ahsoka Season 2, but Ewan's future in Star Wars is a bit more uncertain. They could replace Alec Guinness's Force Ghost with his for future projects after Return of the Jedi, but I think the main hope Ewan has is continuing the story of Kenobi Season 1. And at this point, my dear friends, despite my grievances with the show, I'd say go for it. Just the prospect reading this article about Obi-Wan returning for something else gets me really excited. We've seen some pretty dark days in the last few months. Say what you will about the writing of the first season, it's also a major asset to have Ewan McGregor as an executive producer, as someone so passionate about Star Wars. And you know, I'll reiterate, the franchise needs a win, and I perceive the prospect of Kenobi Season 2 in the same way I see the Book of Boba Fett Season 2. I think both shows had a ton of potential, and I can't help but feel but given a second chance, given that second season, they could iron out the creases, make things right, further and make better the stories. As much as Star Wars needs to move beyond the Skywalker saga, there is an undeniable magic to these legacy characters on screen, and they shouldn't leave it too late. Ewan and Hayden are at their peaks to play these characters. Don't waste that opportunity, especially when both actors are saying, yeah, we're down. Hayden's going to return for Ahsoka as Anakin's Force Ghost, maybe any flashbacks we see from Ahsoka's perspective, and Ewan is right there saying, I would love to do more stories. So, they should jump on it. Just my perspective though. What do you guys think? Share your thoughts on this news in the comments down below. If they do make a second season, what direction would you want them to take? And if you enjoyed this video, my dear friends, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up. Subscribe if you're new. Check me out on socials, it's Star Wars Meg1 on Twitter, or should I say x.com. And have you checked out our Patreon page? We have a backlog of hundreds of posts, exclusive videos, early access, Patreon exclusive news, animated shorts I've done, and so much more. You won't regret it. The link is down there in the description. Go check it out. And may the Force be with you always.